Elder Scrolls saw what happened with Dragon Age, and they're like, hold my Bud Light, everybody. We're going to go full non-binary. And oh my gosh, what are they doing? These companies are all exactly in the same trap of DEI meltdowns, just absolute woke mind viruses. And they just can't help themselves, despite the fact that 2024 showed there's not a market for this kind of thing. It kills every game it touches. Gamers do not want this kind of thing. They keep doubling down over and over and over again. They're even having to rebrand everything because Sweet Baby Inc. just couldn't, I guess, deal with the public perception of how bad they were. I mean, if you look at their website now, you wouldn't even know they're a DEI company because they're trying to hide it. But still, they're still coming out with stuff like this. And of course, they're responding to Backlash, which I'm going to guess this is from The Gamer, a Access Media shill organization, as we go through this article. Is going to say that gamers are bad. It's going to be the typical, they're getting harassed. And watch. This is the same playbook every single time. My name's John Delarose. Everybody, please smash that like and subscribe button. Join us here. I really appreciate everybody who's joined us throughout the course of this year as we've grown and talked about everything that's happening in pop culture with a focus on science fiction and fantasy. I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan from way back. I loved playing those games. Absolutely fun stuff. And they're in development of a new one. We'll see how it goes as this all goes crazy in this world that we live in. I write fantasy novels for a living, and this is my first Steam and Country. It is a 6-book fantasy series so far. I developed a whole world and everything, and I think if you like the background of these RPGs like this, where the characters have their different archetypes and the like, that you're really going to enjoy this series. This is about a airship crew that goes out and initially fights one enemy and goes out into a bigger open world adventure. Yeah, and finds some crazy things as each book goes along. Grab the whole series today because it really builds up. It's on ebook, print, and audio for your convenience. Thank you guys so much for being there. Yes, thank you for supporting our books. It's been a great couple of months, and you'll see. I was really inspired mostly by even older RPGs, like I'd say Final Fantasy IV and VI were my biggest inspirations here. If you played those, there will be some Easter eggs you'll recognize. Thank you so much. And if you've read these and you've seen those Easter eggs, email me or message me because I like to hear from people who pay attention to those things too. It's in the description below. Appreciate your support. So here we are. Elder Scrolls Online Update 44 introduced the game's first non-binary companion with Tanlerin. Please clap, everybody. It's so stunning and brave that this company is going to do the exact same thing that every other corporation is doing by forcing this nonsense of non-binary, which does not actually exist. It is a mental illness. People are either men or women. That is how it works. It's called nature. I'm sorry that you have your fantasies and you want to pretend like you're some kind of otherkin. I guess these sort of things, maybe people just can't understand that fantasy is fantasy and real world's real world. I can, but you could tell that these people get way too immersed in this stuff and they just lose their minds. Maybe that's what's happening these days. So unfortunately, a vocal group within the community voiced backlash and even hurled transphobic abuse at their inclusion. Oh no! People pushed back at having this in their video game, just bothering them, ruining their whole gameplay experience where they just want to, play as like a thief or an assassin and go through and steal some jewels and stuff like that. I mean, they're just having some fun in a fantasy world. But no. It's not going to work that way. For ZeniMax, it was a no-brainer to make Tanlerin non-binary. It was a no-brainer to do that? Why? Why is that? Yeah, well, I guess they're right. They're kind of telling on themselves in this language. It is a symptom of no brains. They are crazy for doing this, and it's stupid that they keep trying to do this. And the narrative director points out that ESO is already full of queer characters who are accepted without judgment. Guys, it's always been woke is going to be what they're going to go with in this narrative here. Oh my gosh, this is already painful, and I've only gotten through the summary of this article so far. Going to need some heartburn medication to deal with this. Let's try this out. The Elder Scrolls Online update introduced the game's first non-binary companion, Tanlerin, voiced by our flag mean Death Star Vicco Ortiz. Let's look this guy up and just see what kind of it's about what you expect. Okay. It's a huge step forward for representation within the game. What a freaking shill article. But a vocal subsect of the community has voiced outrage and spouted transphobic abuse. Remember, just pushing back and just saying, hey guys, this is mental illness. I don't want this in this game. I don't like this kind of thing. As a customer, they just call that abuse. And this is how stupid these people are at this point. This is how much of safe spaces they're trying to cultivate. And they are. It's going to work. They're going to have a safe space away from gamers. That is really what's going to happen with the Elder Scrolls if they keep going this direction, because nobody wants this crap. And you could see justifying their anger by saying it's immersion breaking. It is immersion breaking. And that they supposedly don't fit into the world of Elder Scrolls. It really doesn't. And it's actually the worst in a fantasy setting that's medieval. Because in a medieval fantasy setting, none of this stuff would ever exist. This kind of language of non-binary or they, them is modern anachronisms. As a writer, you learn not to do that first thing. You know, I always, what I struggled with is there's so much language actually that's based upon baseball, believe it or not. There's so many little turns of phrase that are baseball oriented. She struck out or whatnot. That's not one I would have used because it's pretty obvious, but there's a bunch of them, and there's some of them are less obvious, and I had to edit those out of my works early on, especially in my fantasy work, because they are modernisms. They don't fit in a fantasy world where there's, baseball never happened. And this is the same type of thing. Like in this kind of thing, where it's Elder Scrolls, it's a medieval time. Nobody's sitting around there thinking about non-binary or any of that kind of stuff. Those are modern words that feel like very 21st century. So that's it. We have mixed marriages and gay and lesbian characters in abundance throughout the game. It's always so weird. Like, I mean, that's the first thing they always did was try to make these mixed marriages. And I see this, and I complain about this with Rings of Power. It's like, Every faction has like the one black person. You got the one black elf, the black queen of the island nation. That really makes no sense because if they're on an island separated from everybody else, how's that going to get okay? And then there's the one black hobbit, Harfoot, and the one black dwarf, and they're all like in these little areas in Middle Earth, and it's like, okay, well, if you wanted to have diversity, like, why do they all look like human exact diversity? Right? Why aren't the dwarves like blue or something? Right? It's like, if you really wanted diversity, you wouldn't just try to make it look like every Hollywood casting in 21st century America. And that's the case like with games like this too. Like, it's like, okay, you're going to go in and do this sort of thing. Why don't you make it actual fantasy so it feels kind of natural, rather than making it feel like something that's just, again, a Hollywood trope from modernisms? But that's what they do. It just makes sense to us that all possibilities exist in Tamriel. And like I said, it's not all possibilities. It's just modern current year possibilities. Why wouldn't the possibility of the opposite where it doesn't look like that? Because think about it. If you're in a little country area, you're not going to have that, in a time where there's not air travel and things like that. You're not going to have that diverse of a population because it's going to be mostly people with the same genetics from the same villages who have populated this area. That's actually what would make way more sense in a fantasy sort of setting. But gosh, this is so nonsensical. These people are illogical. They're irrational. All they care about is their political agenda, and it drives me so crazy. It just makes sense. Okay, we treat it as a real and living world. Yes, just like 21st century America. You might not notice because we don't shout it from the rooftops or put signs proclaiming it everywhere. And you know why? Because in Tamriel, this is the way the world is. Oh, stunning and brave, just like every other world these days. No character in the world blinks an eye or thinks there's anything unusual about meeting a baker and his husband, and a serving woman and her wife, or have near you and Jacqueline flirt with you regardless of your character's gender. And that's not even mentioning alchemy, the three living gods of the tribunal, or the Daedric princes who appear as any gender they so desire. It's part of the world and no big deal. So this is the new way that they're trying to do this stuff. And you notice they're using the exact same argument they always use in this. It's no big deal, right? But it's extremely important. It can't be no big deal and extremely important at the same time. If it was no big deal, they wouldn't need to put this stuff in there and try to force it upon gamers in the first place, would they? It is a big deal. It's extremely important to them. They lie to you as they try to gaslight you in these situations to try to force you into this thing. And it's all about not just tolerance and diversity and all that. It's the opposite. They want a monoculture that all looks the same, that all feels the same, that all follows their agenda, and you better be a part of it, bigot, or else you're out. And that's it. As they talk about inclusivity, they want to exclude people who think differently than them. And that is the entire insidious agenda right here. And it's just sickening to see them lie to gamers over and over and over again. So Elder Scrolls deserves the backlash. And it's obviously not a vocal minority if the gamer is going to write it up as an article. This is obviously something that's really shocking them. And if it's shocking them, that means that they're getting a lot of pushback. And you can keep pushing back, my friends, and you can keep winning in 2024 by just not buying these games that do this kind of thing. If games are going to start to develop this kind of nonsense, you have to ignore it. You have to move on to the next game. Play your old games where they don't do this kind of stuff. The old Morrowind stuff doesn't have any of this, right? And just wait for this agenda to die, because it's going to. These people have massive investors, and the investors are not going to be happy with all these financial failures going forward. All right. Couple of years to flatten the curve on these big games, guys. That's all it's going to take. We can hold back, and thank you for being there. Hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think about the non-binary character in Elder Scrolls Online. And please check out some great fantasy fiction right here. You'll really enjoy this. Like I said, grab the whole series on ebook, print, and audio. You'll love how it builds. I appreciate you for being there.